Gospel and homily for the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. After leaving the mountain, Jesus and his disciples made their way through Galilee, and he did not want anyone to know because he was instructing his disciples. He was telling them, "The Son of Man will be delivered into the hands of men. They will put him to death, and 3 days after he's been put to death, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he said, and they were afraid to ask him. They came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" They said nothing, because they were arguing which of them was the greatest. So he sat down, called the 12 to him, and said, "If anyone wants to be first, he must make himself last of all and servant of all." He then took a little child, set him in front of them, put his arms round him, and said to them, "Anyone who welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. Recently, I came across these amusing little prayers written by little children. "Dear God, maybe Cain and Abel would not hate each other so much if they had their own rooms. It works with my brother. Sincerely, Larry." "Dear God, we learned at school that Edison made light. But in our RE lesson, they said that you did it, so I bet he stole your idea. Sincerely, Donna." "Dear God, thank you for the baby brother, but what I prayed for was a puppy." Joyce. Saint Teresa, in her autobiography, describes holiness as follows. "Holiness is a disposition of the heart, which makes us humble and little in the arms of God, conscious of our own weakness, but confident to the point of boldness in the goodness of our Heavenly Father." She saw as the surest way to heaven what she called spiritual childhood. Becoming a little child means, and she goes on, believing oneself capable of anything while never becoming discouraged over failures. For children fall often, but they are too little to hurt themselves very much. Just as small children rely exclusively on their mum and dad or guardians, so we should have that same unbounded trust in God. And St. Teresa goes on, what offends Jesus, what wounds him to the heart, is want of confidence in him. Little children don't worry about where the next meal is coming from, or whether they have a bed for the night. Neither do they dwell on the past or fret about the future, but live in the present. If we did the same vis-a-vis our Heavenly Father, a lot of our worries, and indeed our hang-ups, would dissolve into thin air. Jesus tells us, "Do not worry about what you're to eat or what you're to wear. It is the pagans of this world who have set their hearts on these things." The first reading mentions the pagans or the godless. The problem with them is that they have no Heavenly Father to rely on. Sigmund Freud, who saw religion as an illusion, considered God as a fantasy based on our infantile need for a dominant father figure from our childhood. For Freud, God is like a father for childish adults, so to speak. But of course, for St. Therese, God was anything but a fantasy. He was real. And it should be real for us as well. Believers often disparage people who believe by trying to undermine their childlike faith and trust in the Heavenly Father. They tell them to grow up and live in the real world. This point is also brought out in the first reading today. Let us lie in wait for the God-fearing man, since he annoys us and opposes our way of life. Karl Marx, the father of communism, he said that religious faith is the opium of the masses. Not unlike Freud, he said it prevents us from breaking out of our childhood dependence on an imaginary figure called God and keeps us in childish servitude. To shake our faith, some people dismiss religion and God as the underlying cause of conflict in the world. St. James tells us that is emphatically not true. He says, the wisdom that comes down from above, that is, from our Heavenly Father, makes for peace, is kindly and considerate, full of compassion, and shows itself by doing good. Now, if we adopt a childlike stance before God, the wisdom which we receive from above will indeed make for peace and keep us on the road to our heavenly fatherland. Thank you all for listening, and God bless you all.